You're not out of energy. You're just out of sync. And there are 3 movements that can reconnect you to the rhythm of your inner power. You wake up, take a deep breath, and feel like nothing has really changed. There's air, there's silence, there are things waiting to be done. But there's no drive. Something inside you still feels stuck. Even when the world says it's time to move, time goes by, and your body learns to function without truly being present. It goes through the motions, pretends to be engaged, replies to messages, but inside everything feels frozen, as if there were a hidden switch that got turned off. And you don't even remember where it is. And maybe you weren't the one who flipped that switch. Maybe it was your nervous system, an ancient, quiet, primitive switch triggered when your body decided it was no longer safe to fight or run. That state has a name. It's an ancestral defense code that shuts down the whole body as a last resort. And when it's activated, it doesn't matter how hard you try to stay positive, drink coffee, or push yourself to get going. There's no energy because it didn't leave. It was buried. Right now, millions of people are living in that state without knowing it. They call it laziness. They call it procrastination, burnout. But that's not the real name. And the way back isn't what you think either. There is a way to reverse this state, not with fake motivation, but with movements that speak the language of a wounded body, an old visceral protocol that reactivates your vitality without relying on mental effort. Today, you'll discover what those 3 movements are and why they have the power to break through. In just a few minutes, a frozen state that could last for years or even a lifetime. You've tried to wake up your energy using your mind, and it didn't work. You've searched for techniques, affirmations, goals, supplements, lists. Nothing seems to keep that creative fire burning for more than a few hours, because the secret isn't in the mind. There's a code buried in the body, a forgotten neural key that decides when you move, create, vibrate, or go silent. It doesn't respond to positive thinking. It only understands one language: movement, sound, and rhythm. That state you call apathy, feeling stuck, not being able to move forward. It's not a flaw. It's a precise defense mechanism, an automatic response that cuts off energy, slows circulation, lowers metabolism, and makes you seem present while you're not. But that state can be undone. There is an ancient protocol that targets this exact circuit, 3 simple movements that activate the nerve responsible for bringing your body back into presence. This is not a theory. It's hidden physiology written in your deep muscles, in the bones of your pelvis, in the vibration of your own voice. In vibrational traditions like Tigan, sound was used to awaken blocked energy. In tantric mantras, vocal vibration was a tool to release stored trauma. In invocation dances, the sacrum moved as if something was being driven out. And today, science confirms what those ancient cultures already knew. The body only creates again when it feels safe. And safety is not an idea. It's a pulse that rises from within. You don't need to spend years trying to convince yourself that you're okay. You just need to retrain your body to feel that way. This video is a direct map to that. The 3 movements you'll learn here are not concepts, they're gateways. And once you step through them, something that's been dormant inside you will begin to awaken. In the ancient temples of Egypt, where medicine was silence and the body was seen as a living oracle, there was an unshakable principle. All stagnation is a symbol, and every symbol can be moved. Nothing was considered static, not pain, not blockage, not emptiness. For those initiated into the mysteries of that, the body was not an obstacle to enlightenment. It was the map itself. Every bone, every muscle, every vibration played a role in the geometry of consciousness. And when the flow was interrupted, the healing didn't start with the mind. It started with vibration. They knew that the soul doesn't express itself only through words, but through pulses. And that there are areas in the body where life contracts when fear takes hold: the sacrum, the diaphragm, the base of the throat. 3 sacred points where movement and sound could awaken what had been frozen. Thoth called this the return to the original frequency. Not an idea to be believed, but a sensation to be accessed, like a sound resonating in an empty vessel, revealing the echo of what once was. This philosophy wasn't mystical in the modern sense of the word. It was practical. It was applied. Priests danced to reorganize the vibrational structure. Healers used specific tones to reactivate invisible circuits. It was common for someone to burst into tears or laughter after a sequence of movements and sounds, as if something had finally been released. It's no coincidence that the emerald tablets speak of transmutation as both a physical and spiritual process. What is above reflects what is below, and what is within must move so that what is outside can flow. What appeared to be emotional disorder was seen as blocked energy in the body, and what seemed like laziness, apathy, or disconnection was interpreted as an invitation to restart. Modern science, when it's not busy dismantling myths, often rediscovers wisdoms that ancient civilizations had already mastered. A clear example is the vagus nerve, a long, branching structure that connects the brain, heart, lungs, and internal organs, playing a central role in regulating survival states and creative states. Researchers at the University of Tübingen in Germany used EEG to map the impact of low-frequency sounds like humming on this nerve. The result was clear. Vibrations around 120 Hz increased connectivity between the autonomic nervous system and the prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for focus, decision-making, and creative expression. In other words, what ancient traditions achieved through chants, mantras, and vocal tones, neuroscience now identifies as direct stimulation of the ventral pathway of the vagus nerve, the part responsible for bringing the body back into a state of safety and presence. And more than that, this return to safety not only reduces anxiety and improves heart rate variability, it also reactivates brain regions that had shut down during collapse states. That's exactly why techniques like conscious shaking, pelvic rocking, and vocal vibration are gaining ground in studies on emotional regulation, trauma, and cognitive performance. They're not emotional band-aids, they're neurophysiological tools. What was once called a ritual is now called a protocol. What was once reverence for the body is now cutting-edge biohacking. The bridge is built, and crossing it is the next step. The body speaks a language the mind has forgotten. It doesn't regulate through ideas. It regulates through direct experience. And there are 3 precise movements that, in sequence, access the exact points where life energy tends to hide. These are not exercises. They are neurophysical and vibrational reactivation codes designed to unlock the system without requiring strength, discipline, or belief, only presence. As movement 1, pelvic rocking, stand or sit on a solid base, relax your knees, release your jaw, begin to gently move your pelvis forward and back in a smooth rhythm without force, as if rocking something asleep inside you. This is the gesture that whispers to your nervous system, the danger is gone, we can start moving again. Weakest movement, even though subtle, activates deep muscles that support safe mobilization. It reorganizes the body's center line and dissolves frozen tension at the base of the torso, where dorsal collapse often settles. The key here isn't doing it right. It's doing it with attention. For 30 seconds, let your hips find their own rhythm. You might yawn, feel a light dizziness, or notice a desire to take a deeper breath. That's not random. It's your body recognizing the invitation to reintegration. In ancestral traditions, this movement was part of ritual dances that reawakened dormant vital energy. Today, it marks the opening of the circuit, a kind of inner breath that only the body understands. It's not a warm-up, it's a reactivation. And at the end of those seconds, something in you will have shifted out of inertia. Even if in a way you can't quite perceive, what comes next goes deeper. It's the release of what's been held in for far too long. As movement 2, conscious shaking. Now that the system has received its first signal of safe mobilization, it's time to go deeper. The second movement doesn't activate, it discharges. It allows the body to release without drama the invisible leftovers of a survival state that no longer serves you. There's no complex technique, just permission. Standing with your feet flat on the ground, knees relaxed and shoulders free, start generating micro-vibrations. This is not dancing. It's an invitation for the body to shake off what it's been holding. Let your heels vibrate slightly. Allow your arms to follow. Relax your neck. Let go of expectations. Don't try to control the intensity. Just hold the space. The movement should come from within, like an underground ripple breaking through stiffness. After 20 to 30 seconds, you might feel spasms, sighs, goosebumps, light dizziness, or even an unexpected urge to laugh or cry. Don't hold it in. These are signs that the nervous system is reorganizing, releasing frozen sympathetic charge that had nowhere to go before. This is neuro-release, not hysteria. It's biology restoring flow. Conscious shaking has been studied for decades in protocols like trauma release exercises and validated by trauma specialists such as Peter Levine and David Basili. But long before that, it was practiced by indigenous, mystical, and warrior traditions as a portal of vibrational purification. In tribal dances, trembling was intentional. In Sufism, spinning brings a similar kind of release. In practices like Japanese Buto, the body trembles as a bridge between the visible and the invisible. Whenever the body needed to begin again, it would first tremble. Shaking is not collapse, it's the end of collapse. It transforms stagnant adrenaline into vital impulse. It dissolves the leftovers of chronic alert. It reopens dormant neural pathways and, most importantly, it reconnects the body to a sense of agency, of choice, of power. The second movement prepares the ground. The third is more subtle and more powerful. The vibration doesn't come from the muscle. It comes from the voice. As movement 3 low, frequency vocal vibration, sit or stay standing with your spine upright and your shoulders relaxed. Inhale slowly through your nose, and as you exhale, let out a deep, continuous sound. Hum. Let the vibration resonate in your chest, pass through your sternum, and reach your abdomen. You're not just making a sound, you're calling in a frequency. Low frequency vocal vibration acts as a direct signal to the ventral branch of the vagus nerve, the circuit responsible for bringing the body back to a sense of safety and belonging. This is the same circuit that regulates heart rate, deep breathing, empathy, creativity, and connection. It can't be activated by mental commands. It needs vibration. Repeat the sound for 3 to 5 breathing cycles. Between each one, breathe softly and feel. Don't think, don't judge, just feel the echo. Many people report immediate relief, as if their whole body settled a few millimeters into the ground. Others feel tears come out of nowhere or experience a sudden clarity that seemed unreachable. All of this is a sign of reintegration. This kind of practice was described by mystics, yogis, and healers thousands of years ago. Today, it's backed by studies that show increased heart rate variability, reduced cortisol levels, and reactivation of prefrontal connections, areas linked to decision-making, creativity, and emotional self-regulation. But more than the data, it's the experience that speaks. You feel something settle, something reorganize, something finally begin to vibrate again. When the 3 movements are done in sequence, the rocking, the shaking, and the vibration, the nervous system doesn't just regulate itself. It remembers. Tanner took a long time to wake up, not by the clock, but in his body. The light hit his face, the coffee was ready, the email was open, and still, it felt like there was a missing step between wanting and doing. It wasn't sadness. It wasn't laziness either. It was a kind of inner silence that no one else could hear, but he carried it like a dense weight in the middle of his chest. During meetings, Tanner would freeze when it was time to speak. In conversations, his mind would race, but the words always came too late. When he finally sat down to create, to write, draw, or compose, all that came out was a formless emptiness. He knew what he wanted to express. He just couldn't cross the gap between himself and that expression. One day, sitting on the floor of his apartment, not by choice, but from exhaustion, he found himself rocking gently, almost imperceptibly, a movement that didn't come from his head. It was his body trying to restart. It wasn't a ritual. It wasn't a technique. It was instinct. He didn't understand it in the moment. He just followed it, rocked a little more. Then, from some strange impulse, he started to shake his shoulders, his hands, the base of his spine, without control, without resistance, as if something was leaving his body, something without a name but taking up too much space. Then came the sound, a muffled, deep, long hum. Not planned, just released. What happened after is what he called a re-entry. It wasn't enlightenment. It was simple. He managed to get up and do one thing, then another, then one more. Days later, he realized something had shifted. Decisions no longer hurt. Ideas returned. His body no longer felt like an immovable enemy, but like a home. And the strangest part, it wasn't effort. It was access. Tanner never quite knew how to explain what happened. But that day, without books, without techniques, without witnesses, he found in his own body a way out the whole world said didn't exist. Maybe you try doing the 3 movements and nothing happens. No shaking, no tears, no obvious sign of transformation. And then a quiet doubt creeps in. Am I doing it wrong? Is my body different? Is something broken beyond repair? This is the most common trap for those who spent too long in a collapsed state, expecting a grand reaction and not recognizing the small signs of return. But the body doesn't come back in a hurry. It comes back in small tests. It watches. It feels the space. And only when it senses it won't be pushed, that it won't be forced into anything, it starts to trust again. The biggest obstacle here isn't the technique. It's the expectation that freedom comes with fireworks. But sometimes it comes as a sigh, as a barely noticeable change in how your feet touch the floor, as a rest that finally feels deep. That's why transmutation begins with changing the question. Instead of, why didn't I feel anything? Ask, did something in me feel safe enough for the first time to not react in fear? The key is gentle repetition without pressure. 3 minutes a day, 7 days in a row. No chasing results, just relearning. That's the code. The body that was hurt by force can only be healed with kindness. You've learned that your energy didn't disappear. It was slowed down, held back, silenced for protection. Your system didn't fail. It kept you alive. But the time for just surviving has passed. The collapse you feel is not a flaw. It's the pause before the restart. And the 3 movements we explored here are not tricks or performance hacks. They are forgotten languages, invitations for the body to remember it is no longer in danger. You don't need to push anymore. You just need to reconnect. Little by little, vitality returns, not as a sudden explosion, but as a fire reigniting from within. Then clarity emerges, creativity comes back, and the feeling of presence, so rare these days, becomes available. That is the true power of self-regulation, the freedom to feel, the autonomy to exist, and the privilege of creating without having to fight for survival. In practice, it means 3 minutes a day, 3 ancestral gestures, and the choice to treat your body not as a machine, but as a temple. As Clarissa Pinkola Estes wrote, you are not born just once. You are born as many times as necessary to awaken. You don't need formulas. You need reconnection. And that reconnection begins within, at the exact point where your body stopped being heard. May this video not be just another forgotten idea among many. Let it be an intimate turning point, a moment when something dormant in you began to move again. Because the 3 movements you learned here, the rocking that reorganizes, the shaking that releases, and the vibration that anchors, are not techniques. They are reminders. Reminders that your body still knows the way back, that it's not the mind that activates creation. It's energy moving safely within. The creative spark you're searching for doesn't come from effort. It comes from access. And access happens when the body feels whole again. When that happens, what once felt like absence becomes living presence. And what once felt like the end reveals itself as a gateway. If this video sparked something inside you, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. This simple gesture helps keep content alive that awakens conscious presence. Write in the comments, I activate creator mode and transmute freeze into living energy. That affirmation vibrates like a seal of conscious presence. Share this with someone who needs to remember the body is not failing. It's simply waiting for permission to pulse again. And click on the screen to dive into another transformational video from the channel. Because when the body vibrates in truth, life responds with miracles the mind could never imagine.